Hi there, my name is Natalie Harrington, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Director of Student Learning and Career Development here in the Tri-C Career Center. And I am so excited that you have joined me for Resumes That Get Results 2.0. Resume is the most important document that you create in your professional career, and it's a little intimidating sometimes. The Career Center is here to help. It is challenging for anybody, no matter if they are a longtime professional or they're just starting out. And so know that you are in good hands. I'm going to be able to share helpful hints for you no matter where you are in your professional career. So let's get started. There's really 5 goals that we want to talk about today. The first is to gain a clear understanding of what makes a competitive US professional resume. Resumes look different across the world. And so our focus today is going to be getting you specifically ready for that US candidacy. The second thing that we want to focus on is learning the do's and don'ts for resume writing and submission. There is so much information out there about resumes, and sometimes it's hard to know what to listen to, what to ignore. And so you can feel very confident that the information we share with you today is going to be from not only the employers that we work with closely across Northeast Ohio, but also best practices across the entire nation. So you are going to have a really well-developed resume if you follow the information in this session. Third, I want you to understand what employers are looking for. That's important. You are going to do what's called tailoring your resume, which means writing it specifically for the person that's reading it. And so that means if you are changing careers and you have a resume that is developed for your past industry area, you are going to tailor for the new industry area you are applying to. And if you are a student getting ready to graduate or thinking about an internship for the first time, you want to consider, what does an employer in my major area look for? And we're going to be able to give you some great resources today to help you get that information. The fourth thing we're going to cover is developing confidence and how to incorporate your skills and experience to make you stand out. There have been so many moments in my career where a student came into my office and set their resume down on my desk and almost looked away, turned their head kind of in shame of their resume. And that is the exact opposite experience we want you to have. When you hand your resume to an employer or you submit it online, we want you to have the confidence that you have done everything you could to make it a fantastic resume, that it is going to stick out and be competitive to the employers. And I hope you feel that way at the end of this session, that you have got the tools and resources and knowledge to be able to apply to your resume to get you that confidence you need. The fifth thing we're going to cover is there is a formula to help you tell your experience story. And what I mean by that is oftentimes somebody will look at their resume and they don't see their true level of skill, capability, and experience shown on the page. And that's very important. So we are going to make sure that you know the right way to frame that information and really tell that story so that they see the full scope of who you are. So let's dive in. So the first question I want you to think about is, what are you preparing your resume for? I kind of alluded to this in the last slide, but your resume is something that is going to grow with you throughout your entire career, and you're going to be using it for different reasons and for different opportunities throughout that time span. So what is it today? What's the next thing you're going to use your resume for? Because that's really the mind frame that you want to prepare with. So it might look a little bit different if you were applying for an internship. You might include more things from your collegiate experience on your resume. If you are a full-time job seeker, or maybe you're changing careers and you've had a lot of experience, we have to think about what is relevant and how to make what you include relevant to the next employer. And we'll talk about how to do that. So I want to share this quote with you. It comes from an article and from 2022 from Indeed, which we know is a really popular resource where many candidates apply for opportunities. And it says, on average, employers look at resumes for 6 to 7 seconds. Can you imagine So what I want to share with you is that doesn't mean they are only going to take 6 to 7 seconds to read through your entire resume. That would be impossible no matter whether you have a one-page resume or you have extended experience, you're on a two-page resume. That means in 6 to 7 seconds, they can scan that document and determine if you are initially a candidate that meets their fit or no fit qualifications. They are looking for things to stand off from the page, and we're going to talk about how to make that happen so that in that 6 to 7 seconds, you are moved into that employer's yes pile. Yes, I want to go back and look at this resume more to get a better understanding of if that's going to be a good fit for us. So we want to get you into that initial yes pile and then through to the interview calls. So there are 5 commonly made mistakes with resumes. The first is picking a resume template off the internet just because. So very frequently, I will have somebody come into my office and I will ask them, how did the resume that you're sharing with me today come to be? Is it because someone said, hey, this is a template that worked for me? Or you might have gotten a suggestion by doing a quick Google search for resume templates, or you opened up Microsoft Office and it was one of the suggested resources to use. It's okay to choose something that you find that somebody suggests to you or a different platform offers as a template. However, you need to know why you chose that one specifically, and it needs to be more than, oh, it just looked pretty, or, oh, I didn't know what else to choose, so I chose that. You really want to be careful and consider, is the layout of your resume something that's going to grow with you as you grow in your career? Because it takes quite a bit of time to invest in the work that we're going to talk about today. You don't want to have to go back to something and change it just because you didn't spend enough time considering if that was going to grow with you from the beginning. So the great news is in the Career Center, we have a very easy to use Word document that has a resume example in it, and we can send that to you. You can download it from our website, and you are just able to interact with it and replace the information inside with your own, which helps you with the formatting. So really consider, why are you using the resume template that you're using? The second is creating task big bullets, not including skills, quantification, or impact. And what I mean by that is very frequently somebody will bring a resume in with their experience listed out and the tasks that they had to do in those job roles. An employer isn't looking for just a task, and you lose relevancy with your resume if it's just a task, because you might not be doing that same task at your next job. But if you're able to look at that task that you had to do and say, what was the skill that it took me to do that well? And how frequently was I using that skill? And you incorporate that into the bullets on your resume to demonstrate your level of experience. You have created a far superior demonstration of your capabilities than your competitors. So we're going to talk about how to do that. Next is including too much or too little information just because you weren't sure what to include. When you work with a career coach in the Career Center, my suggestion is going to be include everything you think should be on your resume. And we are going to help you tailor that down to what needs to be there. It's always easier to pull back than to add more in. So go ahead and add it for now and then work with that career coach to refine the information. Number 4 is not reviewing the content with attention to detail. So employers have what we like to call hawk eyes. These recruiters look through hundreds of resumes every single day. They know what they're looking for and they know what they don't want to see. So you really need to take the attention to not only the comment or the content of your resume, but also the formatting. And so we'll dive into that and make sure you're feeling good about that as well. The 5th piece is trying to do it all on your own. Oh, please don't do that. That's why the Career Center is here for you. That's why there are passionate career coaches that are really well practiced in the art of resume writing that are here to assist you. So take advantage of that. In the Career Center, all of our resources that we have for you are free to use. If you are a professional outside of having the access to the Career Center at Tri-C and you hire a personal career coach, So that's what they do as their profession. They work with people to help get them ready for the job search and application process. You can pay between $200 and $1,000 to get assistance with writing a resume, depending on the length of the resume and the detail that's necessary. That's a huge dollar sign. It's free for you. And so the information that I have for you today, not only can you apply it, but you can work with our coaches to refine your resume afterwards. And we really encourage you to do that. So don't do it all on your own. But here's some information to get you started. So when employers look at a resume, they look with a double focus. And what I mean by that is they are looking for the formatting of your resume. Is it clear, consistent, done with a choice, accurate? And the content. Does the information on the page show the true level of candidate that you are? And so today in this session, we're going to look at both. I just want to remind you, as far as formatting goes, the reason we want to spend so much time really considering that is it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seconds that they look at that resume. And it stands off the page whether you have consistent formatting or not. So let's talk about what they're looking for. Okay, I'm going to be really upfront with you. Formatting is not the most exciting part of writing a resume. The content is, but formatting is not, but it really needs that attention. So let's run through some of the, what I'm going to call quote unquote rules. And I say that because anyone that you work with on a resume is probably going to give you a different set of feedback as far as both formatting and content. What I want you to keep in mind and what I always want you to ask is the person that's giving you that advice, why are they sharing that piece of information with you? Why are they telling you, your resume should really be 1 page or less unless you have 5+ years of experience in the industry area? A master's degree, enough relevant experience to necessitate 2 full pages. Why are they telling you that it should be 0.5 to 1 inch margins? Why are they sharing that you should use a really easy to read, not a script font? Why are they encouraging you to keep those sections clearly defined and tailored? That the order should be reverse chronological order, that your choices need to be made with purpose and consistency. So ask them, why are you sharing those specific details with me? Where is that information coming from? And that's really important for you to know because somebody might be giving you advice based on just their personal experience alone. If they're not applying to the same company in the same field that you are, that advice could lead you down the wrong path. It also might be advice because maybe they're a recruiter for a company and they work in human resources and they've looked at a lot of resumes. But again, it could be the lens of just that company where they're giving you that information. Maybe you've asked a faculty member or a friend of the family to take a look at your resume. And each one of those people, no matter where they are or where they come from or their past experience, they have a specific lens that they look at that document with. And so you understanding why are they sharing that specific set of information with you and giving you advice in that regard is going to help you better say, you know what, that's really helpful. I appreciate you sharing that with me. And then you can take that information and look at what is your purpose in writing the resume. Is that going to work for you? And you can work with a coach. And so what I share with you today is the information that we work through in both formatting and in content comes from feedback from our employers across Northeast Ohio, as well as best practices across the nation. These are things that we hear and we've researched and we've utilized. And I can say personally as a coach, I have worked on over 4,000 resumes and have seen what we share today be utilized, applied, and get that interview opportunity. So you can be confident in the information that's being shared with you. So let's talk about a little bit more in depth of the formatting rules, if you will, and look at clear section headers. So when a recruiter takes those 6 to 7 seconds to scan your resume, they are looking at these section headers to get a snapshot of the type of information and experience you have. And so you really want to tailor those headers to show the most you can in a couple of words about what the information is that's going to come afterwards. If you read a job description from an employer and they say, we're looking for somebody with marketing experience, and you have specific marketing experience, you're going to want to create a section that highlights that and give it a title that allows them to know that that's exactly what you have. So it's really important to utilize those section headers to be clear with your communication about what types of experience you have and what you bring to the table. Next in formatting is aligned dates. You're going to notice that these are month through year, and if it's still something that's present, it will say present, not current. You're also going to notice some little tiny details, like this hyphen size is exactly the same. I know that sounds funny, but Microsoft Word likes to put different hyphens in there sometimes, and they pick up on those things. If you tell an employer that you have attention to detail and then your resume formatting isn't consistent throughout, you've just proven that you don't indeed have attention to detail. So it's very important, those little things. And coaches have got these hawk eyes. We can go through and look at them and help you identify if there's any errors, but you want to be able to think through that yourself and really critique your resume. We have defined experience, location, and titles as another part of the formatting. So you're going to see that over with Cuyahoga Community College, underneath it, it shows the location and then the position title, and that's in italics. It really helps to preset your resume to grow. So we talked a little bit about that, but this is a good example. We want to be able to show where your opportunity is happening and what the title is so that you have the ability to grow into another position where you have multiple positions at the same company. And we're going to look at that a little bit more here in a few minutes. This is what I mean. If you have your resume set up with the position underneath the place where you got the experience, then it allows you to do something like this when you have more than one position at the same company. And that's what we hope for everyone. We hope that you're going to grow in your role. So in this example, you can see that a bagger started at Giant Eagle Market District in August of 2018, and they worked through July of 2019, and then they got a promotion and they moved up to cashier, and they worked there from July 2019 through present. If you look over on the right-hand side of your screen, you're going to see it says August 2018 through present. And so what the setup of this does is allows them to look at your resume and go, oh, this person worked here for the last 2 or almost 5.5 years, and not just 2 years, which if they're looking over on this left-hand side of your resume, if those dates were aligned on the right, it would break down your experience at a company within chunks. And when they did that quick scan, they would see those dates standing out instead of the full amount of time standing out, and then the breakdown as something that they can quickly see. So this setup really works to your benefit as you grow within your resume. So remember, resume writing is an art. It has to reflect you. So these are some formatting guidelines I've shared. Not everybody's resume is going to look exactly the same, but you need to make those formatting choices with purpose and consistency, even if you use a different format. And then lastly, if you don't know your why for why you chose the format that you did and why you made the choices throughout your resume, a recruiter isn't going to either. And sometimes something that you just don't think about comes across as a mistake that gets you in the no pile. So we want to avoid that. Okay, so let's switch gears a little bit. We're going to talk about content now. And if your resume doesn't tell the true story of your skills and demonstrate your level of experience, it isn't ready to use. Your content hasn't been improved and demonstrated in a way that shows those things, and we want to be able to get you there. So let's talk about how to do that. In your resume, the very first thing that somebody is going to see is that full snapshot and all of those headings that we talked about previously standing off the page. So as you look through the different options, you can see that there are a lot of them. And with your resume, you want to tailor it to be what you need it to be. So if one of these headings doesn't apply to you, you're not going to include it. You just won't include that section. But there are so many different things that you can share with an employer that are important for them to know. However, remember, we're talking about a US professional resume today. So you are not going to include a picture or personal information such as your age or how many children you have. That's all lovely information, but this is strictly professional. So the photo, if you don't have it on your resume, which you won't, repeat after me, I will not put my photo on my resume. There's a really great alternative to be able to upload a professional headshot, and that's through LinkedIn. And so LinkedIn is something that we will show within the header of the resume as a resource for employers to go and learn a little bit more about you. I would consider LinkedIn your resume plus. So what I mean by that is on your resume, it's going to be tailored. It's going to have a specific set of information for just that job you are applying for. And as you grow in your career, as you remove things from your resume because you've had an experience that has allowed you to demonstrate that more or in a deeper level, and you remove things from your past experience, those things could still live in LinkedIn. And LinkedIn is a social media website, except it is a professional social media website, meaning that it allows you to show all of your professional experience and the way that you interact and connect with other professionals 24 hours a day. There is a version that is completely free to use, and it builds right off of your resume. So before you create a LinkedIn, you create your resume. And then once you've done that and you built a base LinkedIn, we can help you tailor so you have a custom LinkedIn URL at the top. It is the #1 platform that employers use to recruit people across the nation and even across the globe. So just keep that in mind that a LinkedIn is a very important and powerful tool for you to have, but it comes after you build that strong professional resume. So we're going to work from the top to the bottom of a resume template. And the very first thing that is going to come up at the top is your header. So there's some things to keep in mind here because the information that is shown and that you will demonstrate at the top might seem simple, but we want to keep some things in mind. The first is you don't need to include your full street address. If you think about how you are applying today for an opportunity, it is typically online and you are submitting your personal information through a database that records it, and they don't need your full street address. No one needs to be able to Google Earth your house or show up at your doorstep. And you might be posting your resume on a social media platform to get employers interested in you as a prospective candidate. You don't want to put all your personal information out there to the level of your full street address. So you can just include your city, state, and zip code. Next is phone number. So please remember, set up your voicemail. Use a professional voice message recording and ensure your mailbox isn't full. So frequently we will hear from recruiters that they tried to call a student to set up an interview and they couldn't leave a message because the voicemail box was full. Or they get a voicemail that has music playing in the background, or somebody else has recorded it and somebody's giggling. It doesn't sound professional. This is your first opportunity to interact with them when they call. If they don't get you, they need to be able to leave a voicemail. So please make sure you are checking to make sure your voicemail box is not full and it's an appropriate professional message. And if you have any questions about what that looks like, please reach out to a career coach. The next is your email address. It's important to keep this in mind as well. You want to list the email that is the most professional and you check daily. So let's say, for example, my email that I use when I go into Kohl's or Bath and Body Works and they ask for my email address is not the email address that I am going to give if somebody is asking for my email address so they can contact me about a professional opportunity. You might have a fun and playful email like, I love four-wheeling at gmail.com. Well, that's great. And you can use that in your personal life, but you need an email that is very close to your first and last name, is very professional in setup, and also that you check daily. So, very frequently now, employers or recruiters will reach out to you for the first time through your email. And if you don't check your email every single day, then you might be missing an opportunity. I was working with a student recently that received their formal job offer via email and they didn't check it for 3 days. And so they had a job offer sitting there waiting for them. So, just as a student, no matter where you are in your professional development, please make sure that the first thing that you do in the morning is get up and check your email. It's also the way that faculty are going to interact with you. And if there's a notification from the college, it will come out that way as well. So it's very important that you are checking that daily. The next thing to keep in mind is to edit your URL for LinkedIn. It's not automatically just your name. So if you put this up there and it's not set up that way in LinkedIn, that is going to cause a problem. It's not going to take an employer where they want. And again, that's an attention to detail and professional courtesy to make sure that is aligned. And then lastly, if you have a virtual portfolio, you could display the link up at the top of your header as well. And so just like anything else on your resume, the header can be tailored so that the information that you want an employer to see very first, top of your resume, is there. So if you have any questions or thoughts about what else could be included, feel free to work with your coach on that. Okay, next. As we work our way down, the first piece of information beyond your header that you're going to share is a career readiness highlight or a summary of qualifications. It could also be a professional summary. And so this topic has a lot of different titles. You need to choose what's best for you. If you are a current student, we typically recommend that it's summary of qualifications. If you are a professional that's been in the industry area for a long time, it might be professional summary. But no matter what, this is going to highlight how you are career ready for this opportunity. You want to make sure that you highlight the characteristics that align with the job description in the industry, and you write in third person for your career summary, whatever that looks like. It's a really strange thing to switch from everything that you're taught as far as how you write about yourself in first person in your English classes to switching over to writing this summary in third person. And so you want to make sure that there's no I, me, my, we, any of those pronouns throughout your entire resume, including in the summary. You don't want to repeat things from your resume content below in your summary. So it has to act as a true summary. It's a snapshot of everything else that you're going to write in your resume. And so when you write your summary, sometimes I encourage to create the rest of your entire resume first and then come back to the writing of that summary so it can act as a true snapshot of all of the other information. You are not going to take specific bullets out of your resume and repeat them in that summary up at the top. So we talked about this a little bit, but you are not going to include personal pronouns, so don't do that. And of course, we will help you with the drafting and refining of that summary. Next is education or relevant coursework. So you can see here an example of the type of things that will be on your resume in this section, from the places where you got the experience to your grade point average to when you're anticipating graduating, and then some relevant coursework. And so some things to keep in mind within this area is once you have college experience, you don't need to incorporate high school anymore in the education section, unless you went through vocational training through your high school, or you are a CCP student, meaning you are taking high school classes and college classes at the same time. If that's the case, go ahead and leave high school. And so what you would do is you would have high school below and your college experience above, and you would repeat this formatting for both of those. And so what that does is it sets it up in reverse chronological experience, meaning your most recent experience down to your oldest. And we'll talk about that and what that looks like here in just a couple of minutes. You also want to make sure that you use the exact name of your degree or major on your resume. If you are coming to Tri-C, you might be pursuing a certificate or an associate's degree. The associate's degrees have different names. There's associate of applied business. There's an associate of science. There's an associate of arts. And then you have a major within many of those associate's degrees. So if it is a general associate of arts, you might not have a specific major. But for many of the programs here at Tri-C, you will have a specific major, and you want to know exactly what the title of that is. So you are welcome to stop in the counseling office, or you can talk with financial aid. They can bring it up with you, or of course the Career Center can as well. It's in all of your personal Tri-C information. If you log into your My Tri-C space, you are able to go in and see it there as well. So please make sure that's accurate. I also want you to consider to list no more than 2 lines of relevant coursework. So in the section, you don't want it to be a huge paragraph where an employer skips over it because there's too much information. You want it concentrated. And then another rule of thumb is just to think about this. If you have a 3.0 GPA or above, then we would encourage you to list that on your resume. If you don't, go by the job description. So if you have a 2.9 and the job description requires a 2.75 to apply, then go ahead and put your GPA on your resume. But remember, you need to tailor that and adjust it each time for the job that you're applying for based on their criteria. Last, if you're not on the dean's list, which means 3.5 or above, then you wouldn't have this piece up here. President's list is something that many institutions offer. We don't have that here at Tri-C, but if you went to a different institution, a different four-year institution, and they offered President's List, and you are listing out multiple different education experiences, you could incorporate that. So Dean's List, again, is 3.5 or above for the semester, not overall as a whole, just that semester. And then President's List is 3.9, but we do not have President's List here at Tri-C. So remember, you're going to need to adjust that based on where your education experience is coming from. Okay, next is technical skills. So technical skills are the things that allow you to do your job really well, but are specific to that job and the experience that you need for that. So technical skills, you can see what is on your screen is just a set of examples. You would change this based on your major and based on the industry area you are applying to. You also want to kind of work backwards. So when you look at that job description, you want to make sure that any of the technical skills that are listed there that you possess, you demonstrate on your resume. So these are not preset categories. On the left-hand side of your screen, you'll see virtual meeting platforms or visual design programs or social media administration. And social media administration does not mean what social media you use personally. It means what social media could you run for an office if you were hired by that office. So if you got an opportunity to be an intern and they said, as an intern, we'd like you to run our Facebook group for our office or organization, you could run that for them. From creating it to updating it to pulling data from it, you need to be able to do all the pieces. So just keep that in mind if you decide to include that category. However, you don't need to have all of these. You might not have any of these, and it's going to change based on who you are applying to and for the position. The other thing I want you to keep in mind is you want to arrange the order of these opportunities or these technical skills by what is most relevant or important or aligned to the job you're applying for, down to what you hope they see. So for example, if you were applying for a position and in the job description, it said they were looking for somebody with experience in Google platforms, you would want to move Google platforms up to the top of that category list. And then everything else could come after it in order. So maybe you're going, oh, Natalie, I just don't know what technical skills I would list on my resume. I'm going to share with you a resource called ONET Online. And this is a great resource for you to use for all different parts of your resume. So if we go in and there's a specific position you're applying for, maybe it's marketing. and you type that into ONET, you're then able to choose what type of job within marketing is most aligned with the job you're applying for. And maybe that is market research analysts and marketing specialists. And so you would click that, and there's a wealth of information in here, but for this specific purpose on your resume, we're going to look at the technology skills. You can open up that technology skills section, and then it shows you all of these different categories of technology skills that you can incorporate in your resume and the different platforms that align with that category. And so this is a great way for you to read through and get some ideas of what some of those technical skill categories could be that you would share. It also helps to kind of work as a checklist for your industry area to go, oh goodness, I didn't realize that I might need to have skills in some of these areas. You can make a note, and then as you're choosing your classes or just independent opportunities to learn, you're able to really focus on some of the hot technologies for that occupation. So it is a free platform. ONET is easy to use. You don't need a username or a password. You can simply just Google search ONET and it will be the first link that comes up. Of course, your coach can also direct you to that as well. Okay, so categories based on your areas of expertise using ONET. You put them in order based on the job description requirements, most relevant first. And that is going to get you a great technical skills section. So now let's talk about experience. There's kind of 3 buckets of types of experience and then a lot of subcategories underneath those. So when we think about experience, it could be both in the class or on the job. And from those areas, it could be project experience. So maybe you worked on a specific project in a classroom and you haven't gotten to use that expertise in a job setting. You are still able to show that as project experience from the classroom on your resume. But you could have also done project experience in a job in the industry area you're applying to, and so you can show that there as well. And so there's different ways to kind of highlight those job and project experiences, but you want to decide what is going to be best and you're not going to duplicate. So if you talk about a project from a classroom experience, you wouldn't talk about that again from a job experience. You're only going to show one project one time. So we've got project experience, we've got industry experience, which means if you have marketing experience and you are applying for a marketing job, you want to be able to pull that out and highlight that in its own specific section. And then there's work experience. So this is kind of additional experience that you have outside of that industry specific experience that they're looking for. And then you're going to create bullets that help give even that outside of industry area work relevance. So we're going to talk about how to create a really standout bullet. It is going to jump off the page to those recruiters. They are going to go, oh, if we don't interview them, I'm not going to be okay with it. Like that's what we're looking for. And so we want you to build bullets that look like these examples. And so before we dive into that, I want you to do a little brain teaser with me. So bullets should be impact based. Bullets should not be based solely on tasks. So what if you were applying for a job that required data entry experience? And what if 10 out of the 30 applicants had database experience? So they've got this whole stack of resumes, 10 of those have database experience. And the hiring manager had to narrow down the candidate pool to just 5 of those 10 candidates. So they've got 10 candidates that meet their qualifications, and now they've got to take that and narrow it down to the 5 they want to interview. How would you make your experience stand out in that moment? It's a tough question, right? The thing is we've got answers to that. And that's really by showing your capability, your level of experience, and the skills that you used to do that well. And that's what building an impact-based bullet means instead of just a task-based bullet. Because when that recruiter goes back and they look and they see, oh, this person did data entry, but this person did data entry for 1,000 input points. That might look a little bit different. And what if that person also talks about the skill they use? So let's look at this as an example. We're going to move away from task-based bullets. A task-based bullet would look like this. Enter data points into Excel. That's a task. That's a thing that you had to do. But we want your bullets to tell a story. And so we're going to switch that over to an impact-based bullet. Utilize attention to detail when entering up to 1,000 data points in Excel per day, increasing company-wide reporting accuracy. And so you might be going, Natalie, I have no idea how to get my bullet from task-based to impact-based. And that's where the formula comes in. So we talked about this. We are going to show you how to make this standout bullet using a formula. So let's look at the formula. It's not numbers. I can be completely transparent with you and say math has never been my jam, but words help and numbers help. So this is a friendly, even if you're not great at math, formula to be able to use with your resume. It is an action verb plus a skill that is quantified, connected to the task that shows the impact that you had. Right now, it's a little bit long formula, but let's break it down. So let's start with the action verb. Anytime I say action verb, I think people get really sweaty because they're like, I don't remember the difference between an action verb and an adverb. What are those? Or an adjective? I don't remember. And so it's really simple. The action verb is just a word that shows action. That's all it is. So you can see some examples on your screen. They all show taking action, spearheading, converting, training, navigating, educated. It shows action. And there are all kinds of great resources out there for you. We have a wonderful resource on our website. It lists all types of action verbs, but also there's a link at the bottom of your screen that you can interact with. It's just 185 powerful verbs that will make your resume awesome. And so being able to interact with resources, if you do a Google search that says action verbs, you'll get big lists. I used to have this poster in my office blown up to size 400. And when a student came in, we would get out the highlighter and kind of mark off the words that you've used. Because your resume is your first demonstration of written communication to an employer. You want to show them that you have a strong vocabulary, and action verbs is one way to do it. The second part of the formula is the skill. And you're going to notice on your screen that skill is broken into two areas, soft skills and technical skills. And so the difference between the two of them is that soft skills, which are also frequently called transferable, soft, critical, or career-ready skills. So those are all language that is used to describe them. It's important to know that, because if somebody says, tell me about your transferable skills, you're like, oh, I only remember my soft skills and my technical skills. They're asking you for what you know. They're looking for your soft skills. So just keep those in mind. The soft skills or transferable skills are skills that you are going to take with you through every job you have and that you can build from all types of different experience. So you may have taken a class where you developed communication. And when you went into an internship, you used that communication that you had learned in the class, but you grew it and you developed it. And then you take that communication skill when you go to work in your first job and you are able to refine it and make it more professional. Those skills move with you no matter what type of opportunity you're in. Even if it's not a job opportunity, you use them daily. Technical skills are also called hard skills or industry-specific skills. And that is just what it says. It is for that industry. So if you are in a position where you're doing MIG welding and then you go into a marketing role, you are probably not still going to be doing MIG welding as a marketer. And so it's an important thing that you are listing those technical skills that are specific to that major. And sometimes in combination with the soft skills or transferable skills. So maybe you are using Excel, which is a technical skill, But when you utilize Excel, you use attention to detail, which would be the soft skill. So you can say that you use them both together. So you're going to have to look at each thing you're trying to show to the employer through the bullet and decide, do I need to show a technical skill? Do I need to show a soft skill? Or can I use a combination of the two? And so it's just a choice to make. There are also a list of skills in ONET. So if we hop back over to this resource, you are able to scroll down and look up the skills that you would use in that area. So for this specific job, critical thinking, active listening, complex problem solving, you can go into ONET, look up the specific job you are applying for, and then look at the skills for that industry area. And that allows you to really tailor the skills that you are showing to what they're looking for. You should also be referencing your job description. You want to make sure that if it is listed out, that somebody has the ability to work in a team, to be a team member. That's a soft skill, that you demonstrate that on your resume, how you've done that in the past. So critically important to do that as well. And ONET is a great resource to help you with that. Okay, next part of the formula is quantification. And quantification just really means how many, how often, how much of that skill or that task were you doing. And so it allows somebody to see the difference of level, because if there's a candidate that was inputting data and they did 100 data points per day, and then there was a candidate that input 1,000 data points per day, using that physical number allows somebody to see the level of experience and skill you have in that area. It's the thing that moves you into the 5 chosen candidates instead of being left in that stack of people that are not getting an interview. And so quantification is really important, but it's not expected that you walked around your entire life and carried a pad of paper with a pencil and made tally marks for every single thing you've done. But you do need to be able to accurately depict the numbers. And so you can use up to, on average, approximately, as you are demonstrating these numbers. So let me give you an example. I worked with a student once who worked at Chipotle, and he was having a really hard time identifying how many customers he should say he worked with per day. And so we backed into the numbers, and his goal was to help a customer every 30 seconds. He worked a 4-hour shift, and he did not get a break in that time. And they always had a line at the location where he worked. So if we back into those numbers, that is 2 customers per minute, 120 customers per hour, and 480 customers in a 4-hour shift. So if one of his bullets demonstrates that he applied strong professional communication for up to 480 customers per shift, now not only is an employer able to see, oh, they have professional communication, but to what level they have that capability. So this is a very important step of your resume. You might not be able to quantify every single bullet, and that's okay. But when you can, you should. And if it creates a clearer picture, that's exactly what you want to do. So the second to the last part of this formula is the thing that is typically easiest for somebody to think about. You kind of know what were the tasks that you had to do in the job that you had. However, again, if you are really having a brain fail and you need to be able to say, oh, I just don't remember, you can go back into ONET and go under tasks and open up this section, and it might give you some suggestions and a reminder of things that you had to do. You can also use the language directly from ONET. So this goes back into that moment where you think, my professors have taught me not to plagiarize. I am not supposed to use somebody else's words. And that is 100% true. You should not plagiarize. But taking this language from ONET that is a resource that is there for you specifically to do that with, and then applying the formula, it's not going to stay the exact same from what's on the website. because you are going to add it into a bullet that incorporates a skill that's quantified, that talks about impact, that starts with an action. And so these tasks are completely available for you to pull from in the language from your resume. So just keep that in mind. So this task, what did you have to do? Maybe it was greet customers or complete orders or stock sales floor. You are going to now think about what was the impact that the fact that you did those things well, what impact did that have on the customer, the team, or the organization? And this is going to be a very different way than you may have ever thought about the work that you've done in the past. You have to use the lens that the work that you did have an impact. And that's the first hurdle to get over. It was important, whether you recognize that or not. You have to show that it had importance. And sometimes a helpful way to think about that is to go, if I hadn't done that task well, if I hadn't had a set of skills to apply to that specific thing I had to do when I was working, what would it have looked like if it wasn't done well? And sometimes that helps you to think about, because I did it well, I was able to maybe create a positive guest experience, or maybe the fact that you did the task well increased profits, or it motivated team members. You're really going to have to put your thinking cap on for this one. But it's a very important part, because an employer is not hiring you typically to do exactly the same thing you did in your previous role, but they want to know who you are going to be as a member of their team, and showing the impact shows the value. So very important. So that's a lot of information, but that's the whole formula. You are going to take this task-based bullet from something that looks like entered data points into Excel. You're going to apply the formula, and that is going to allow you to transition to that impact-based bullet. With just a few minutes ago, you thought, how am I going to get there? Now you know it's just a formula. And so you're going to see that action verb, which you typically can add at the end to introduce the rest of your bullet, and then the skill for attention to detail that you used when you were entering up to 1,000 data points. So that entering and that data points, those were the tasks that you had to do, up to 1,000 per day. That's the quantification piece. Increasing company-wide reporting accuracy, that shows the impact. And so it's broken down all those pieces of the formula. So when we take a task and we create the impact and we utilize the skills, it allows us to take something as simple as talk to customers and think, when I talk to customers, I really use communication skills. And you connect those two together, you are building a stronger bullet. If you think about a task where maybe you took payments, and you think about different skills that it takes to do that, maybe it was attention to detail that you needed to use to take the payments with accuracy and give back the proper change and run the credit card correctly. It's the same for any of the other tasks you've had. It allows you to create that standout bullet. So remember these pro tips as you are creating that content for your resume. You are only going to use one action verb once on your entire resume. You are only going to highlight a skill, soft skill or technical, one time on your entire resume. You are only going to show the task one time on your entire resume, because your resume is your first demonstration of written communication skills, and it is your overall demonstration of the types of experience you've had. So you don't want to waste a single word. You are going to be a memorable candidate. And remember, it's okay to have questions. It's okay to not do this on your own. It's okay to make a draft and write down things that you need clarification on, and then make an appointment with a career coach. You can do that through Handshake. If you aren't sure how to use Handshake, at tric.joinhandshake.com, you can reach out to our career center at careerservices@tric.edu, and we will help you with Handshake. We will get you scheduled with a coach. We will get you all the help that you need. to write a resume that truly gets results. So I hope this time was really helpful. I hope that it allowed you to really focus on what your resume could be. And I'm excited to meet with you in the future.